Okay, welcome to our today's Just Planet webinar. Before I'm starting off to introducing you who is our host today, I would like to give some preliminary information. As this is a GoToWebinar, all attendees will be automatically muted, and this is due to optimizing the quality of audio. If you guys have any questions, please make use of our chat box functionality. I ensure that all of your questions will be answered either after our presentation or by sending an email to get all things clarified. Okay, so today we would like to present you how to integrate custom quoting and finite scheduling, and this in a job shop environment. And as I'm saying this implies that it's not me only to present, but I've got two colleagues to join the presentation, and these are your hosts for today. So my name is Elmar Karlovic. I'm Managing Director and co-owner of Netronic Software, which is the company that provides Just Planet. And with me is my colleague Dave Lackner. Dave is responsible for all our sales efforts that we do in North America. And last but not least, I'm very happy to introduce Ted Christiansen to you. Ted is the founder of Tailwater Digital, which is the company that developed DashQ, the quoting software. And concerning the agenda, it will be me to kick off and give some introductive explanation about the topic. Then I will hand over to Ted, who's giving you some actually the ideas and the basics about DashQ, and he will also present the functionality itself to you. Then he's handing over to Dave, and Dave will present the actual solution to you. So what we did is we realized an integration of Just Planet and DashQ so that you're able to simultaneously do both quote and schedule at the same time. And this will be Dave's job to present actually this tool to you. And with that, let's start off with some introductive explanation. So as the title implies, we are talking about job shops here. And doing this, it makes sense, that you get an understanding what we mean by job shop. Actually, we use the term job shop in the same manner as we do the term high mix, low volume. And therefore, it is actually two factors that define a job shop or that define a high mix, low volume shop. And this is product variety and the quantity per job. So in a job shop, we have got a very high variety of products. So you have got a very high mix on one hand side, and on the other hand side, relatively, the quantity per job is low. And this is here marked by that yellow section. And as you know, the world is not always, black and white. This does not end in that coordinate that you can see here. Therefore, I mark the gray areas. But most likely, you will understand what we are focusing on. We are focusing on an environment where you have got the high variety of products. And in comparison, e.g. to a shop, like a flow shop that has a low mix but high volume. So this is here what we understand when we talk about job shops. And furthermore, it is important to know that in a lot of job shops, the high mix is based on like a combination of standardized products or components. And then you have got like thousands of products or parts, actually, better let me call it parts, and semi-finished components. And like the combination of both then ends in the high mix. So this is important to get an understanding about the functionality of DashQ, because the variety can be predefined by predefining the parts that you need as input parts, to come to the high mix and the high customized end product. Okay, so that's about the job shop definition, so that you understand in which kind of environments of manufacturing, we are talking about. Second, let's look into like the basic tasks of both quoting and scheduling. So actually what you do in quoting is that you calculate a well-founded and reliable price for custom quote. So this is what quoting is all about. So it's focusing actually on getting a reliable price. It's focusing on money, right? On the other hand, what actually most tools about quoting do not offer or provide is like the dimension of timing, especially not timing in terms of finite capacities. So what you do get is a reliable price, but what you do not get is a delivery date. But in our eyes, this is just like the halfway you need to go, right? If you need to have a quoting, you need to have both. You need to have an understanding about what pricing you need to offer. And on the other hand, you need to offer, when you are able to deliver, right? Second, scheduling. It's kind of a bit the upside downs. In scheduling, it's all about calculation of when to do which operation on which resource. So here the focus is on time. But on the other hand, there's a lack of the money dimension, because normally you would not focus on how much money are you doing in a certain time frame, as you are missing of reliable margins per job, right? What both worlds or both sections actually have in common is the requirements, dealing with a high mix low volume environment. They need to cope with the high customization, the high mix. They need to cope with the high dynamic. And this means, you get, or you have the need to do quotes daily. That's normal task during the day, that you have to quote, and this pretty on shorthand. You must be swift. You must be quick to answer such a request. And in that term, both worlds need to be easy to use, and they need to deliver quick results. So like if you're waiting for a long time, then the request is not valid anymore, or, you even get the next and the next. So this is kind of where you see the interrelation of quoting and scheduling, and it's quite obvious and intuitive, that integrating both worlds makes sense, because then you're closing both gaps, or the gaps on both sides in one go, right? So if you integrate quoting and scheduling, then you solve the red areas. So because with interfacing both sides and calculating a scheduled delivery date for quotation, you have a full quote, everything in there. On the other hand, what you get when including the valid price, the well-founded and well-calculated price, what you can do then is use the margin to insert in your scheduling application. And then what you can also see then is not only the throughput in terms of what job is scheduled to be done in a certain time frame, but then you can also boil it down into money, right? Which is also a great benefit. And seeing like this theoretical basis of why quoting and scheduling should be integrated, and if you do so, what kind of benefit you get, I would like now to hand over to Ted, who is showing you a bit more about the tool that he developed that is called -Q, and that is for quoting, and here especially for shops that have a high mix. Okay, with that, I hand over to Ted and give you the presenter rights, Ted.
Thank you. There we go. You see the slides, Elmar?
Yes, I do.
Good. Thank you for that introduction. We're excited, Dave and I know we're together to show you this combination. So I've got a few slides I'll walk through that explain the motivation of -Q, the problem that was desired to be solved. And then we'll hand it over to Dave to do a demonstration of the two tools together. So as Elmar gave in his introduction, we're talking about improving the quoting process, which can be cumbersome for high volume, low mix job shop environments. And many companies, particularly smaller ones, use Excel, and a lot of the comments that we'll make equally apply to systems where there are companies where there are ERP implementations already in place. So this is not a solution just for companies without ERP, it applies to both. But looking just at the companies that don't have ERP, that are Excel oriented, some of the problems are with the current process, it's not guided. It can be error prone, mistakes can happen in formulas. The second one, which particularly explodes across the organization, multiple Excel documents, not just for quoting, but for production order management, and keeping those documents synchronized is effort that could be put elsewhere. And the third is it's really nearly impossible to learn from historical orders versus product features delivered to improve your estimating precision. So there are other benefits that we'll talk through, but those are kind of three high-level things that -Q is intended to solve. This is just one simple example of how a job shop that is a machine shop, for example, might define attributes by quote line item, what the quantity is, material, the raw material weight, is it heat treated, yes or no, and then maybe a complexity factor that could drive some time element to calculate the labor, and then looking at which operations, so this is effectively an ERP router being done by hand, the numbers there would represent minutes, and then using a total shop rate on the right can take minutes into cost. And then the third piece is then lastly calculating the unit costs and pricing. So that's how one example of a company might do it. Of course, in each instance it would look different, but the idea would be the same. And then lastly on the right, a gross margin can be calculated. So what we wanted to do is transform the quoting process, effectively giving smaller companies a configurator, just like you would use for determining a price for a car, but without the massive expense that would be involved in developing a configurator, a copy at a time. And to do that, as Elmar pointed out, when you quote, you need to know an accurate cost because many manufacturers are cost-oriented in their pricing strategy. So if you're off on the costs, your gross profit is going to be wrong. But we wanted to eliminate Excel and Word since, while flexible, as I mentioned, they're both error-prone. And by doing so, as Elmar mentioned, being able to respond quickly to a request for quote might mean you win the order, and otherwise you might not. So that's one way to improve profit. The other is through a deeper understanding of what it costs each company to deliver certain features of the products they're offering, and whether they be simple ones or the high mix that Elmar talked about with many different pre-built sub-assemblies that might be selected and then added finally to the final product in the end. So -Q addresses both of those. And then lastly, the very powerful and unique combination of -Q with Just Plan It to be able to know the schedule, the lead time when you quote, not just during the quoting phase, but later when production orders are actually created to manage the execution of production itself as well. The growing and improving profit is probably the top one, and then streamlining production at the bottom, faster response, being able to ensure that your pricing targets are met with no oversight, which a lot of times with Excel would have to be done manually. And then a stronger connection between customer feature choices and the cost to deliver those features. And then in streamlining production, zero manual creation or maintenance of a manufacturing router. And when we say router, we mean the sequence of manufacturing steps that are required to build something. And then an automated analysis of those features versus the cost to manufacture periodically, let's say once every 3 months, to automatically improve your precision in costing and therefore pricing to not only improve profit, but to maintain market competitiveness. And then lastly, it's very easy to update manufacturing process changes because routers are not being made by hand. When you change the definition of a product in -Q, you can automatically switch from one manufacturing path to the next based on product features very easily. So why this is important for a job shop is if you were to try to go down the path of creating routers by hand, whether you're doing it in Excel or ERP, it really doesn't matter. The problem is the same. The complexity of multiplying, each combination of attributes gets big pretty fast. You can see the example on the right. If you have 5 products and 11 features, each of which have 2 levels, that curve gets up to 10,000 routers pretty quick. And that's a relatively simple example. Many companies, if not most, are more complicated than that, which is why really a manual approach, whether it be Excel or ERP, doesn't matter. For a high mix, low volume is a poor choice. This is probably not explained very well when different options are being considered, but that's really the reality. It really mirrors the concept of a car configurator. So what do we mean when we say a router? Using a simple car example, you might start with building the base vehicle. You got to build the body in white, then you paint it, put the engine in, assemble the chassis, wheels, interior, and then entertainment, a few other things. So it's just a real simple example. I think you should be able to understand how that could apply. Each business is different. And this part of the onboarding process would be learning about your business to define what those steps are. So the process below, how these two tools work together, is quoting as really the core element of it in -Q. Quotes become sales orders, which can be edited, quantities, deleting line items or adding new ones. So the configuration process works equally there as well. And then lastly, once a sales order is released to production orders, one or more per line item are created, those production orders are sent to Just Planet in the background where the schedule is calculated, and then the dates, start and completion times are pulled back from Just Planet into -Q for viewing. But the schedule management itself is all done within JPI. So real quickly before we turn it over to Dave for the demo, just a few screenshots of what the -Q software looks like. So you have the configurator first, and the layout of this mostly looks the same, but which attributes are displayed and in what order and what pages, that's all unique to each client through the onboarding part of the project. And once a configuration is finished, it can be added to an existing quote and draft or create a new one. So you can see here the pricing categories, and once we see the demonstration, it'll be more clear. And multiple line items which can be edited. You can see your router, your bound from here. You can update a discount to adjust pricing to what the customer would accept, their history notes, and then a delivery module can also be set up to calculate delivery cost if that's part of your business. Quote acceptance becomes a sales order, looks the same, but it's a separate document, so to speak. And I mentioned that once a sales order is released to final, production orders are calculated, created rather, and sent to Just Planet in the background. And then this is what JPI looks like, Just Planet, and the production orders are sent to it, and it calculates the schedule and sends the dates back. So that's a real quick overview. We'll turn it over to Dave and then look forward to your questions shortly.
Okay, thank you very much, Ted. Now I will hand over the rights to Dave, and Dave will then start the demo of the actual tool that interfaces both worlds of quoting and scheduling. Okay, Dave, here you go.
Okay, okay, folks. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? So yeah, let's take a look. So what I plan to show you is a process that was described in Ted's slides. We're going to generate a quote and then drive it to an acceptance, and then of course the order is taken, assuming that you do take the order, and most of you will if you to do that. And show how it actually integrates with the capabilities inside of Just Planet. And it'll make some adjustments and changes that are typically the case in every job shop. And then we'll walk through some visibility characteristics so you can see how all the things work together nicely. So I'm going to start with, and of course I am in Dash Q right now, I'm going to start with general machining as my option here. So unlike the car example, this one we're going to do is just a CNC type of machining characteristics. So I'm going to put in a quote for, say, 16 parts, all right, or 16 quantity. Pick the material that we'd like to use for this quote, and of course we have those stored away in our system here. Then I hit next. So it's guiding you through the characteristics as well. So then what I can do is say, okay, what the material I'm buying is a 10 by 10, or I can actually put in some characteristics in here. So I can say 8.56, keep this one as 10 and this one as 10 as well. And my finished product is going to be, in this case, let's say 7.56, all right? And then 9 in this case and 9 in this case. So I'm just going to go quickly through this. So you can add characteristics in here that make sense for your environment. Then I hit next, and what happens is it takes you to the next environment where I might want to put some drill holes in here. So I'm going to say 2.5 in this one here, and this would be the depth of some of the holes too. So 5.6, and some other characteristics as well. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next now again, and now whether or not it requires heat treating, again, these are options that you'll choose, and it's guiding you through that process. So I'm going to mill it, and then of course maybe the grade of machining that I'll be using. And you notice it's compiling all that information as I throw this characteristics on the right-hand side here. So I'm seeing everything. And you can go backward if you'd like to as well. I'm going to hit next, and it's going to generate the quoted cost per unit. Okay, my unit per cost here. And it's actually showing you the estimated time of delivery. All right. So it's giving you that information based on some standards that we've set up in here. So of course in the data structure we have in here as well. If you hit detail, it shows you the routing steps that are going to be necessary to make this part. So, and of course, the cost that's associated with that as well. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say create a quote. And I'm going to use the customer here. I'm going to say customer 2 here. Whatever the customer names are on here, you're going to use that. And by the way, you could import a lot of these characteristics too as well to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and create this order or create this quote. And you notice it has a quote characteristic and it has the pricing on it and other information down below you that you're typically not seeing in your spreadsheets, obviously, or what you might want to know about a particular project that you're working on here, or an order or quote. You can see some of the characteristics down below here, and whether or not it's been in a draft status, offered, or accepted, or canceled. If I hit the router, you see the router characteristics. You can see that too as well. I'm just going to go back here, and you can see all the information to the bill of material. And then I could also, if I wanted to, delete this quote too as well. So if the customer says, I would like to move ahead with you, you can just simply, and by the way, I could send this quote to the customer via PDF or an email right from this tool as well. So I'm going to go ahead and say they've accepted this offer. All right, you notice that it's accepted, and it also created a sales order for me automatically too. The numbering scheme and characteristics that go along with this are really up to you. All right, and of course it also gave me that date, okay, that they accepted it. And then, of course, we've got everything else, of course, with that, too, from the quoting process. I have all the information that follows along with that, too, as well. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually come over here to the sales order. And when we see now it's in a draft stance. So we haven't actually accepted the sales order. We're going to do that right now. We're going to accept the sales order, and we're going to finalize it. All right. Now, what's neat about that, what I just did here, it not only created the sales order, but it also created the production order. All right, and it's scheduled at the same time. So if I were to go over to Just Planet, sorry, you'll see that I've got my order put in here, and you notice that it's already in place here. All right, and I'll kind of zoom out here. You'll see that it's got all of it scheduled, and it's actually in here. So that order's already been and put into Just Planet, and it's been scheduled already. So it's provided that information too. So if I click on it, you can see I'm going to cut it, machine it. So all the steps that are necessary to make this are already in place here. And you notice that it's going to be about 18 days late. So now that's interesting. So the schedule, the finite scheduling tool offered the dates here. Let's go back to here and go look at my production orders. And And I'm going to do what we call, I'm going to go to the scheduling characteristic here, production schedule. And what I'm going to do is you notice that it's showing that right here. So regardless of where you are, whether you're in Just Planet or in -Q, I get the visibility immediately for orders, quotes, etc. in the tools. Now, if we were to make some changes to those characteristics, either place, okay, we can do that. Now I'm going to do that over here now, Just Planet. And I'm going to take an order that we've already got in place here, and I'm going to take this one here. I'm going to say, let's say this operation is going to move out to here. All right. So I'm going to drag that out there. So again, I'm just using standard functionality and Just Planet. You notice that because whatever reason, I'm not going to be able to get to this grinding step until this week, 51 in December. And you notice it has a revenue impact over here up top here as well. So if I go back to -Q, okay, and if I were to just update, and of course, this actually happens in the background today. I'm actually just doing it manually here. What you'll see is some situations, and I'm going to refresh it again here. Okay, where that order now is 4 days late. Okay, and this one's 5 days late. This one's 21 days late. I may not have had that right, so let me make sure I got that right. Okay, so you can see my updates have taken place. So what happens is now the beauty of this is that I do get true visibility throughout in both systems and had integrated the way that we want them to be, which they're typically not with the spreadsheet world. Now, some other characteristics you might want to look at too are your queues. All right, so when you are looking for available capacity out there, so I'm going to click on here now. It shows you the available capacity in each of your departments. So if I were to look at the cutting department, you can actually click on that and see the jobs that are currently being scheduled. You can do the same inside of Just Planet too. Whoops, Just Planet here. You can actually see that, you know, what available capacity I have, and I can actually just look at this from a different view here. Whoops, sorry, it's the wrong one too. Click on here, and I can actually see how my schedule, and I can look at the available capacity in each one of my departments, and you can see that right here now, that how it actually is being scheduled. And available capacity, and as my open, my white areas here for available capacity that I can sell. So again, if I go back to -Q, again, it's showing that information too. So again, salespeople and other enterprise users out there can actually visualize and see the availability and current statuses of orders. So orders here, they can actually see the dates and the times that are currently being scheduled for all of their orders and see that information live as well. And again, what we've done here is we've gone from, you know, creating and configuring a part, all right, or a new quoted job here. And again, it's not something that's a standard quote, which is typically what you folks are all doing. Create the order, and I could actually then drive it through production and see how it's going to drive through that and give me available dates and the characteristics that go along with that. So, and also, just a sideline here, you also have the capability as a CRM-like look here too, where you can actually have and create a forecast, if you will, of orders that are potentially coming in here, so by customer, so that you could potentially look at how that may affect your pipeline as well. Okay, that is actually what I wanted to walk through today. Hopefully that helps you understand how our software works along with -Q. And if you have any questions, I think it's the time for doing that.
Okay, thank you very much, Dave, for the demo of integrating -Q and Just Planet. So far, I cannot see any question yet, but let me change the presenter rights back to myself. Then I would like to motivate anyone from you guys, either being guest in that webinar today or maybe also watching the video on our website later on. If you have got any question concerning, you know, the integrated tool, or you have got some question concerning -Q itself, or you have got some question how we do the automatic finite scheduling in Just Planet, then again, don't hesitate to reach out. I grant that we will answer all your questions, so you can reach out to me directly, or you can reach out to Dave, especially if you're coming from North America, or reach out to Ted if you want to have a special, maybe also more use case orientated demo of DashQ. So you can have both, like the package with DashQ and just burn it together, or just, if you're interested in either the one or the other software, that's for sure also possible. And with that, I thank you very much for your kind attention. Hope you guys enjoyed the demo, and we are looking forward to getting your feedback. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.